so much for taking the time, to be here today, but also to apply to the commission as well. My name's Kath. I'm one of the creative producers at Be Arts, and really, I'm here to we're going to do questions at the end, and everyone's got my email. So if anything comes up after this as well, please feel free to email me. But mainly, I'm going to hand over to Dan to talk us through the main bit of the session.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name's Dan Thompson. I'm the learning lead for Be Arts Art City project, and that means I kind of look at how learning is delivered across all of the Be Arts programs, but also look at how people can learn from what Be Arts have done in the past as well. I've got over 20 years as a freelance artist, so I've been sort of out bidding for commissions for projects for all of that time. And I've been commissioned, and I've also commissioned artists to work on other projects across the UK as well. I've regularly used bits of my budget as an artist to commission other artists or seed fund other artists' ideas. I'm a former board member at AN as well, so it's very involved in the Paying Artists campaign. I've done a lot of work around paying artists fairly. So that's the background to why I think we should do these kind of sessions like this one. So yeah, thank you for joining us. We're going to look specifically at the application process for our blank space commission. But I think the things we talk about and things I talk about in this session can be applied to any commission and are kind of good practice, good things to get your head around. So just to start, an introduction to Be Arts for those that don't know it. Because I think you should know this stuff when you're applying. I think you should do a little bit of kind of background reading, but it's not always easy. Be Arts is 40 years old this year. It was founded by women and has always been led by women. Started out primarily as a theatre company, but has evolved to cover all sorts of other arts as well. It's very much rooted into the queer and feminist campaigning that was very active 40 years ago. And has always been committed to social change. A lot of the projects over that 40 years have got a real strong thread if they're about social change and development. It's always been artist led. The founders were all artists and performers in their own right, and currently has about 40 plus associate artists who have a role in leading the company and what it does. And it's rooted in Stoke and Newcastle under Lyme and North Staffs, but has always been international, always looked out from there and done a lot of international work as well. As I say, I think it's always worth you doing a little bit of reading about the person commissioning first, and then looking into the commission a little bit more. And in this case, blank space, this isn't the first of these commissions. You'll have seen we've put this call out before for similar commissions. So you can see the kind of things from that we're likely to commission. You can see the kind of work we've commissioned in the past. You can also see from looking at that some of the things that we've commissioned, and a couple of people put in proposals that were very close to things that we'd commissioned in the past. Very close. So close that you kind of look at them and go, well, we're not going to pick that because it's so close to what we already had. There was one proposal had an almost identical typeface to a piece that we'd commissioned in the past. And you kind of think, well, a little bit of sort of homework and research might have shown you that might not fly. With all of our commissions and with the process we use, and as I say, I've been a freelance artist for 20 plus years. We know that artists are always being asked to work up ideas for a pitch, and you don't get paid for the pitching. You don't get paid for coming up with the ideas. So we try to be fair with artists. And with blank space, we took as a starting point that we're asking you to make work that you want to make. This isn't us saying we want to make work for this group, for this place, to these specific parameters. We're inviting you to make work that you want to make, and that says something that you want to say, and we'll give you some time and some resources to make that work, and hopefully to make a bigger, bolder work than you might make otherwise. In a number of occasions, we've seen people use this process as kind of R&D, really, for other projects or other work they're doing. So it feeds into other work quite nicely. With all of our commissions, really, part of the point as well is that we want to get to know other artists, that we want to bring more artists into Be Arts and into the work we do. So we're asking you to introduce yourself, tell us about your work, the ideas, why they might fit with Be Arts. So that is bigger than just this one commission. That's a bigger process than just this one piece we're looking for. And we like artists to tell us how far they've got with the idea as well. Some of the artists that are coming forward have got a piece that's pretty much ready to go and could just be stuck up on the wall as it is almost. Others, as I say, are using this as part of the process of research and development, who've just got a vague idea of something they'd like to work with. And we'll commission artists at all three of those stages. We'll commission artists who are really far down the line. We'll commission artists who are in the early stages of making work as well. And we want to hear about your previous experience. We want to hear about any previous experience of work on this scale, work exploring similar themes, similar ideas. Because again, it might feed into not this commission, but to something else we're doing in the future. And we're very keen, and have always been, going back 40 years, to hear from artists who have the ideas but maybe don't have the experience. Over the years, we've given a number of small commissions to help less experienced artists start building their skills and their CV. So it's not that you have to be an experienced artist who's worked at this scale before to come and work with BArts. As I said, I was very involved in AN for a number of years, so we use their daily rates as our basis for payment, and we're also offering production support, mentoring with more experienced artists, and with me as the learning lead on that. And we're committed to holding things like this webinar that we're holding today, to try and help ease the process and to keep this conversation going. As I say, I hope that you've introduced yourself to BArts now. You might not get this one, but you'll get another one, or you'll come and work with us on something else. So let's look in a bit more detail at the real details of the Blank Space Commission. And this is what we said we wanted. We said, if we gave you a wall, what would you write on it? What's the most important issue in your world right now? This is an opportunity for artists to take time to explore an issue or theme of their choice on the wall outside our number 72 building. We're keen to support artists as they learn about a topic and in the research and development of a new body of work. It's a pretty open brief. We want somebody to make some work. It can be anything. It can be anything that can be fitted to that wall, really. And that's because we want to give artists the space to be artists. Some commissions, as I've said, some commissions are really specific, and I look at some and think, you don't want an artist, you want a technician. You've decided what you want made, you've decided what fits that space, you want a technician to come and make the thing that your committee or group has decided. We're not doing that. We're saying, here's a space, come and play with it, have some fun. In the brief, we also said previously, artists and activists have explored the climate emergency, loss and remembrance, mental health, allyship, racism, caregiving by frontline NHS workers of colour and other issues. It's really clear we want work with a subject with a purpose that has some mission to it. Those are the issues that we're interested in with that commission. And a couple of artists that didn't make the shortlist hadn't put any thought into that. They'd sent us a nice picture of something they were making anyway, but there was no explanation of why it had a purpose, why it had an aim, why it met that part of the brief. So read the brief, pull apart the brief, and make sure you are responding to what's there. Now go on. The blank space is 2.5 metres by 3.4 metres wide. The artist has freedom to work with this space in any medium and adapt, develop or change the work between a set time period. You'll be given technical support and an experienced mentor if you want one. That technical stuff, there's a little hint there that you can be bolder, that you can do anything you want within that space. We didn't get many people being really creative with it this time. It'd be nice to see in future some people really pushing what you could do with that wall space. And a reminder that you'll be supported in whatever way suits you best. So tell us what you need. If you need support or help, say it, because we'll try and provide it. Some people were really clear in saying, I haven't worked at this scale before, I'm not sure how I'd install work, I'm not sure how my work would scale up. That's absolutely fine. We want to hear that, because that means we've got something we can work with and we know what kind of relationship we're going to be having. I'm always really impressed when artists say that stuff, because it shows that you're properly thinking and not just kind of bluffing your way through this. After that bit of the brief, we laid out the timetable and the fee. This isn't a huge commission, we know that. It's worth saying it's not a massive commission. But we've done a number of these now, and we know that this commission is enough to do the job that needs doing. So it's not a massive commission, but we know you can do the work in the time. And it's also, and this is the whole idea, hopefully supporting you to make a work that you'd want to make anyway. That's really important. We're investing in you making the work you'd like to make work. I'll talk a bit about the budget at the end of this, because we'll break down the budget a little bit more perhaps. So then into the how to apply bit, and I think this is really interesting. There's lots of different processes that different organisations use when asking you to apply. We say to apply, email info@barts.org.uk with an outline of your idea and how you'd make the work. That can be in writing, no more than a side of A4, or a short video. Again, take note of this. Take note and read this stuff. I've had people, when we've put this brief out, I've had people respond with 40 pages of detail about their work. We've asked for one side of A4. That's because we know we're going to get, we had 30-ish people apply for this. That's a lot for us to look through. We don't want to spend huge amounts of time on it. So if we ask for a side of A4, do it. Condense it down to a side of A4. It's really easy. It's also, we've tried to make this process easy and accessible. I was looking at an application recently for an artist bursary scheme. Similar amount of money, not a dissimilar amount of money to this one, and it had more than 20 questions to ask of the artist. It asked about your level of art education, it needed a full CV, it needed a list of previous exhibitions attached as well. It was a really good reminder that sometimes these things are more complicated than they need to be. You know, that bursary scheme didn't need all of that information. I even queried it. I even emailed them and said, why do you need to know this? I didn't go to art school. Why do you need to know which art school I went to? They said, oh, we don't need to. We don't use that in the judging process. Well, why ask? Why make it harder for artists to apply than it needs to be? Further on in the how to apply bit, we said, tell us why the issue or idea matters. And again, a reminder there in the section that's explaining how to apply, a reminder that we're into ideas, campaigning, imagining change. This stuff matters. We've said it at the how to apply stage. This is what we want to hear. So again, respond to that brief in full. And we said, give us some examples of previous work or show us how you're ready to make the work. And again, that's being open. That's saying if you know there's stuff that's going to be difficult, now's the time to tell us. Tell us what help you want and we'll try and help you make the work. It gives us some evidence, some idea that you've properly thought about this. Because it is a big thing. You're making a big piece of work that's got to go up outside, that's got to be weatherproof and all those things. We want to be sure that you can do it because none of us we don't want to fail. We don't want you to fail either. A couple of external things as well. I always think, you know, it's always worth considering the stuff that's not implicit in the brief for these kind of things. So the kind of external factors. And they show that you're aware of the broader picture, you're aware of the wider debates in the art world at the time. So just three that, you know, you could be considering. The first is diverse cultures. You know, we're all aware of how white and middle class the arts can end up being. Clearly, we want to think beyond that. Think about how your work feeds into those ideas. As I said, BArt started from a radical queer place. We're interested in those issues. So gay and queer issues, we're interested in that landscape and that work. So think about those things. And these are the bigger issues that anyone applying for any piece of public art at the moment should be considering. And also, of course, we're looking at work in Stoke. So give us some idea that you're aware of Stoke's own problems, the things that make Stoke different, difficult. How would this work fit into that landscape as well? As I said, we'll look at the budget in some more. So now I'm going to break down how budgeting works. As I said, we work on AN daily rates, which are about the same as Artist Union. If you've used Artist Union rates instead, 200, 250 a day. It's a sort of good ballpark figure for what you should all be charging for your work. We will try to pay some money up front when we commission you, because we're artists, we know that you can't make the work without the money. Some commissions won't pay you on commencement or will only pay a very small amount at the start, but we'll try to help you out where you need. And again, this is a conversation. You can talk to the commissioner about all of this stuff at any point in the process. You can ask questions, you can email, and as commissioners, we'll listen, we'll respond. Don't be scared of the people that are commissioning. It's not a power relationship. There's not a power thing going on here. It's a proper conversation because we all want to make the work. Your exact budget will always depend on exactly what you're proposing, exactly what you're going to make. But as well as the direct costs, paint, material, printing costs, as well as those direct costs, always try to factor in your own personal travel. If you're not in Stoke, you want to get to Stoke, try to factor that in. Factor in transport costs. If you need materials moved to Stoke, if you need to paint the boards in your studio and send them somewhere else, what's that going to cost? And also consider your ongoing costs. Consider the costs of studio, phone, broadband, your normal everyday ongoing costs, and consider that this should pay a little chunk of those as well, because they're all part of the cost of this process. And your days that you're charging for should include planning, should include any meetings that the commissioner demands and wants to have with you, as well as making the work, as well as the days installing and de-installing the work. We don't want you to be out of pocket because you haven't considered these things, and no commissioner does. So consider the planning, the setup time, any meetings you need, and the installation and de-installation of the work as part of that as well. Don't just think about it will take me 2 days to make that. All of this stuff, budget work is always a bit back of an envelope. You know, you're never going to get it precise. There will always be something in there that throws you. You know, try and factor in a little bit of leeway for yourself, a little bit of what happens if money. And when you're talking to the commissioner, be really clear. You know, for that fee, I'm going to do 4 days work for you. That's what you get. And I can make it in 4 days, but that's the deal. Be clear about that stuff. It's not a bad thing to talk about. Whenever I look at a commission, I always start with, well, that budget gives me 2 days or 4 days or 8 days at my day rate of £250 a day. And that's always my first bit of the budget gone. And I always look at it and go, well, can I do something useful or meanwhile in those 2 or 4 or 8 days? Can I actually achieve something in that time? I then think, well, okay, if it's limiting me to 2 or 4 days, say, what's the shortest route to achieve what I want within those days? Is there my big idea is that I'm going to commission a traditional sign writer to hand paint a sign that fills up the whole of that space with my words on it. But if I don't have the budget for that, what's the other route to it? Well, the other route is that I screen print and fly post on paper and paste up onto that wall or whatever. But I always start my process, always starts with, does it pay me enough days? And quite often, in all honesty, I look at commissions and go, well, actually, when I've looked at it in that way, it's not even worth me thinking about applying because there's not enough days there. As I said, with this one, we know there's enough days because we've done it a number of times with different artists already. So just to sum up with some final points, really, and then we can have questions and answers, if you've got any questions, that is. But some final points. Number 1, be clear. Tell us what you intend to do. It's incredible how many people put a proposal together for this kind of work, give us a pitch, and it doesn't say anywhere in the pitch what you're actually going to do. It says, I'm going to explore ideas of, I'm interested in interrogating the notion of, I'm inspired by. What are you going to make? What do we get at the end of it is the real question. So be clear. Tell us what you intend to do. Be clear, explain it simply, and bring it to life for us. We want to see it. We want to see it in our heads and have an idea of what we're going to get. Number 2, make us believe you can do it. We want to have confidence that if we commission you, we're going to get this piece of work. So either through past experience or by being clear about the support you're going to need. Either of those is good enough, but make us believe you can do it. Number 3, as I've said, respond to the brief. It's clear the things we're interested in. You know we're interested in certain ideas, certain concepts, certain areas of campaigning and discussion. Tell us how you're going to respond to that brief, and that tells us you've taken notice. And it tells us if you've taken notice of that, then you'll have taken notice of the other stuff like the dimensions and the complexity of installing the work and so on. So respond to the brief. Number 4, treat this as R&D. Even if you don't get a commission, the process of applying and thinking about it should be part of your working process as an artist, because you're trying and testing ideas, reshaping them in response. Not getting a commission should still be a useful, valuable part of your working practice. It shouldn't be a failure, because it's part of that ongoing R&D of trying and testing and working out the ideas for yourself. So it should deliver something useful for you. 5th, and finally, don't treat this as a single chance. It's an opportunity to start a conversation with us, in this case BArts, as the commissioner. We're already talking to 2 artists who didn't make the final commission, but they said interesting things or put forward interesting ideas that we want to take further. So it's the start of a conversation. Don't think of it as you had one shot and you've missed it. Think of it as you're talking to us, and that can carry on, and that's an ongoing process. So hopefully, even though you didn't get it this time, the process for you is useful. You've got an introduction to us at BArts. We're going to be commissioning lots of artists over the next couple of years for different programmes. So I hope it's a useful process. That's the end of me talking, and now we've got time for any questions that you might have.